You hate feeling stuck, don't you? Good. That hatred you're feeling, that's not frustration. That's your soul breaking free from a life that was never meant to contain it. Here's what nobody tells you about spiritual growth. It never feels good. It doesn't feel like progress, expansion, or enlightenment. It feels like dying while you're still alive. It feels like everything you thought you knew about yourself is crumbling, and you're watching it happen in slow motion. I spent months thinking I was going backwards, that I was broken, that everyone else was moving forward while I was just falling apart. Then I realized something that changed everything. What I thought was stagnation was actually the fastest growth I'd ever experienced. Your soul doesn't grow by adding more to who you are. It grows by stripping away everything you're not. And that stripping away, it feels like hell. Today I'm sharing 8 signs that prove you're not stuck. You're undergoing the most sacred process a human being can experience, the conscious evolution of your own consciousness. And I have to warn you, sign number 6 will completely reframe how you see chaos in your life. And sign 8, I've never shared this perspective before, but it's the most beautiful paradox of spiritual awakening. If you've been feeling like you're dying inside, this video might just save your life by showing you that you're not dying. You're being reborn. So the first sign that you're growing, not stuck, and this one's gonna hit different than you expect. You feel deeply uncomfortable when you look at who you used to be. Now, most people think this is self-hatred. They think something's wrong with them because they can't connect with their past selves. They're embarrassed. They're cringing. They feel uneasy looking at old photos, old texts, remembering things they said or did. But here's what's really happening, and this is where it gets deep. Your soul is rejecting the false identity you wore like a mask for years. Think about it. When you put on clothes that don't fit anymore, your body feels uncomfortable, right? That uncomfortable feeling you have, that's your spiritual immune system activating. It's recognizing something foreign, something that was never truly you. Here's the reframe that changes everything. You don't hate your past self. You're mourning. You're grieving all the years you lived as someone else. All the years you betrayed your own soul to fit in, to be accepted, to survive. I remember looking at pictures of myself from just 2 years ago and feeling this deep sadness. Not because I was a bad person, but because I could see the performance. I could see how much I was pretending, how much I was hiding, how much I was living someone else's idea of who I should be. That person wasn't evil. They were just unconscious. They were doing the best they could with the awareness they had. But your soul has outgrown that version of you, and it's celebrating by rejecting what no longer serves. So, if you feel uncomfortable with your old self, congratulations. Your spiritual immune system is working perfectly. You're not sick, you're awakening. Now, the second sign, and this one might make you feel a little lonely. Everyone around you has become completely predictable. You're sitting in conversations, and you already know what people are going to say before they say it. You can see their patterns, their reactions, their defenses coming from a mile away. And part of you wonders, am I becoming judgmental? Am I turning into someone who thinks they're better than everyone else? Here's what's actually happening, and this will change how you see this gift. Your deeper perception is awakening. You're no longer seeing personalities, you're seeing souls. You're seeing the wounded child behind the tough exterior. You're seeing the fear behind the anger. You're seeing the performance behind the confidence. This isn't about becoming superior to anyone. This is about seeing through the masks that everyone wears, including the ones you used to wear. You recognize the patterns because you've lived them. You see the unconsciousness because you remember what it felt like to be asleep. And here's the thing nobody talks about. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. This awareness is both a gift and a burden. It's beautiful because you can love people for who they really are, not who they pretend to be. But it's also isolating because most people are still playing the game you've stopped playing. I used to think something was wrong with me when I could predict entire conversations, when I could feel the pain underneath someone's sarcasm or the desperation behind their success stories. But then I realized, this isn't judgment, this is recognition. You see the pain behind every ego because you've been there. You see the fear behind every aggression because you remember your own battles. And from this seeing, something beautiful happens. Compassion isn't something you have to work at anymore. It just flows naturally, because you understand that we're all just walking each other home. The third sign is one that might bring tears to your eyes just hearing it. You feel homesick for a place you've never been to. There's this ache in your chest, this longing for something you can't name. You look around at your life, your house, your city, your relationships, and nothing feels like home. You feel like you don't belong here, like you're living someone else's life in someone else's world. Most people call this depression. They think something's broken. But here's what's really happening. Your soul is remembering its true origin. Not Earth, not any physical place, but the state of pure awareness you came from. That homesickness isn't sadness. It's your soul calling you home to yourself. You've been living like a visitor in your own life, following rules that were never yours, playing games that never made sense to you, trying to fit into a world that feels fundamentally foreign. And you keep searching for home in relationships, in achievements, in places, never finding it because you're looking in the wrong direction. I spent years feeling like I was dropped on the wrong planet. Every social situation felt like I was reading from a script I'd never seen before. Every convention, every tradition, every normal thing felt like speaking a language I'd never learned. I thought I was broken. But then I realized I wasn't homesick for a place. I was homesick for a way of being, for authenticity, for the version of myself that existed before I learned to be someone else. That longing you feel, it's not depression calling you backward. It's your true self calling you forward. Home isn't somewhere you've been. Home is who you're becoming when you stop pretending to be anyone else. You're not lost. You're remembering. The fourth sign is perhaps the most misunderstood one. You find yourself crying, and you have no idea why. You're watching a movie, listening to a song, or just sitting quietly, and suddenly tears are streaming down your face. There's no obvious reason. Nothing particularly sad happened. You start questioning yourself. Am I becoming emotionally unstable? Am I having a breakdown? Here's what's really happening, and this might be the most beautiful thing you'll hear today. You're releasing a grief so deep it doesn't have words. You're letting go of years, maybe lifetimes, of separation from who you truly are. Every tear is your soul finally exhaling after holding its breath for so long. But here's the reframe that changes everything. Those tears aren't sadness for what you've lost. They're joy for what you're remembering. They're relief that the long journey home has finally begun. I used to cry in my car after perfectly normal days. I'd be driving home from work, nothing wrong, nothing dramatic, and I'd have to pull over because I couldn't stop the tears. I thought I was losing my mind. But then I understood. I wasn't crying from pain. I was crying from beauty. The beauty of truth finally being seen. The beauty of walls finally coming down. The beauty of coming back to myself after being away for so long. Every tear is a prayer your heart is saying. Every sob is your soul saying, I remember who I am. You're not breaking down, you're breaking open. You're not falling apart, you're falling back together. Those unexplained tears, they're the most explained thing in the world. They're your soul celebrating its return to itself. The fifth sign is one that lives in your bones. You are tired all the time, and sleep doesn't help. Not just physically tired, soul tired. You wake up exhausted. You go through your day feeling like you're moving through thick water, and no amount of rest seems to restore you. You start wondering if something's medically wrong, but every test comes back normal. Here's what nobody tells you about spiritual awakening. You're living a split existence. You're awakened on the inside but still performing the old life on the outside, and that split is absolutely exhausting. It's like trying to run new software on an old operating system. Everything slows down, everything struggles. You're tired of lying to yourself, tired of small talk when your soul wants deep conversation, tired of pretending your job matters when your heart knows there's something bigger calling, tired of smiling when you feel empty, tired of saying "I'm fine" when you're transforming. I remember the exhaustion so clearly. Sitting in meetings, talking about things that felt completely meaningless, while something inside me was screaming, "This isn't real. This isn't who we are." But I had to keep showing up, keep playing the role, keep pretending everything was normal when nothing felt normal anymore. Every conversation felt like acting. Every social gathering felt like wearing a costume that didn't fit. And by the end of each day, I was completely drained. Not from doing anything particularly hard, but from being someone I wasn't. But here's the truth that will set you free. Your exhaustion isn't weakness. It's your soul refusing to participate in the illusion anymore. It's your inner wisdom saying, "We can't do this fake life anymore. We need something real." That tiredness, it's not depression. It's your authentic self asking for permission to finally come home. The sixth sign might make you question your sanity. But stay with me. Life feels completely unreal, like you're living inside a dream. You look around at your daily routine, your responsibilities, your relationships, and everything feels fake. Like you're watching a movie of someone else's life. You find yourself thinking, is this really my life? Is this really happening? Nothing feels solid anymore. Nothing feels permanent. And you start to panic. Am I losing my grip on reality? Am I having some kind of breakdown? Here's the profound truth that will shift everything. You're not losing your grip on reality. You're seeing through the illusion that what we call reality is all there is. Your consciousness is recognizing that this physical world is just one layer of existence, and suddenly the layer you've been taking so seriously feels thin. Everything you thought was solid, your career, your relationships, your identity, your problems, suddenly feels like playing house. Like children dressing up and pretending to be adults, taking their game very seriously until someone reminds them it's just a game. I remember standing in my kitchen one morning, looking at my coffee mug, my counter, my whole life, and thinking, this feels like a stage set. Like I'm an actor who forgot they were acting. It wasn't scary. It was more like awakening from a very long, very convincing dream. But here's what's actually happening. You're not losing touch with reality. You're becoming lucid within it. You're waking up inside the dream, still dreaming, but now aware that you're dreaming. And once you know you're in a dream, you can start to play by different rules. You can start to create consciously, instead of just reacting unconsciously. This isn't mental illness. This is mental freedom. The seventh sign is perhaps the most heartbreaking. You feel guilty for outgrowing people you love. You notice you can't have the same conversations anymore. The topics that used to bond you now feel shallow. The jokes don't land the same way. The dynamics that used to work now feel small. And the worst part, you feel like you're abandoning them, like you're becoming someone they can't reach. The guilt is overwhelming. These are people who've been with you through everything. How can you suddenly feel so distant from them? How can love feel so complicated? Here's the truth that's hard to hear but necessary to understand. Growth creates a natural selection in relationships. It's not cruel. It's just how evolution works. Some relationships grow with you. Some stay where they are. And some fall away completely. It's painful, but it's not personal. You're not leaving people behind. You're being true to your growth. And that's not abandonment. That's integrity. Real love doesn't mean shrinking yourself to fit into old patterns. Real love means loving people enough to be authentic, even when authenticity creates distance. I remember the guilt when I realized I couldn't pretend to care about the same gossip, the same complaints, the same surface-level conversations that used to fill our time together. I felt like I was betraying friendships, becoming someone cold and disconnected. But then I understood. The guilt I felt wasn't about love. It was my ego trying to keep me small so I could fit back into relationships that no longer served who I was becoming. Here's what changed everything for me. Loving someone doesn't mean staying the same for them. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is grow, even if they can't follow you there. Even if it hurts. Even if they don't understand. Your growth isn't selfish. It's sacred. And anyone who truly loves you will want you to become who you're meant to be, even if it means loving you from a different distance. And the 8th sign, this is the most sacred one of all. You simultaneously feel like you're dying and being born. There are moments when you feel like you're disappearing completely, like everything you thought you were is dissolving. Your old interests, your old way of thinking, your old reactions, they're all falling away, and sometimes you panic because you don't know who you'll be without them. But in the exact same moment, there's something else happening. Something new is stirring. Something truer is emerging. And you're caught between terror and wonder, between grief and joy, between ending and beginning. This is the sacred paradox of awakening. What you're experiencing isn't breakdown, it's breakthrough. This isn't crisis, this is metamorphosis. The caterpillar doesn't improve into a butterfly. It dissolves completely and becomes something entirely new. I remember lying in bed one night, feeling like I was literally disappearing, like the person I had been for 30 years was just fading away. And I was terrified because I didn't know who would be left when the fading was complete. But then I realized I wasn't disappearing. I was appearing for the first time. The real me. The one who had been hidden under years of conditioning, years of trying to be who I thought I should be. She was finally emerging. Here's the deepest truth. The death of your false self is the birth of your authentic self. Same process, different perspective. The part of you that feels like it's dying, that was never really you anyway. It was just the costume you wore, the role you played, the mask you put on to survive in a world that rewarded conformity over authenticity. So if you feel like you're dying, let me be the first to congratulate you. You're being reborn consciously. You're getting to witness the miracle that most people sleep through. You're dying before you die, and discovering that what you thought was death was actually the birth of everything real. If you've recognized yourself in these 8 signs, I need you to hear something with your whole heart. These aren't problems you need to fix. These aren't symptoms you need to cure. These are sacred confirmations that you're undergoing the most beautiful process possible, the conscious evolution of your soul. Stop trying to go back to who you were. Please, stop trying to return to that smaller version of yourself. Who you were wasn't a mistake. It was preparation. Every role you played, every mask you wore, every way you tried to fit in, it was all preparing you for this moment when you finally stopped trying to be anyone else. Who you were was the cocoon. Who you're becoming is the purpose. I know this growth feels like hell sometimes. I know there are days when you miss the simplicity of unconsciousness, when you long for the comfort of not seeing so clearly, of not feeling so deeply. But here's why it hurts. You're leaving the heaven of unconsciousness for the unknown territory of awareness. And consciousness, real consciousness, requires you to feel everything, the beauty and the pain, the truth and the confusion, the love and the longing. Your soul doesn't want you comfortable anymore. Comfort was for the caterpillar. Your soul wants you conscious. It wants you real. It wants you awake. It wants you home, not to a place, but to yourself. So if you recognize yourself in these signs, let me be the first to welcome you to the most beautiful, terrifying, sacred journey that exists. Becoming who you actually are. You're not broken. You're not lost. You're not too much or not enough. You're awakening. You're remembering. You're coming home. And the world has been waiting for the real you your entire life. Welcome home, beautiful soul. Welcome home,